Today's daf is daf Tezvav. Let me quickly remind you what we're learning so far. We learned initially that 10, when a machlek is of 10, if you say to an agent 10, give that over to the other person. Does that mean deliver it to the person, or does it mean I want you to acquire it on behalf of the other person? Do we say 10 kischi or 10 lav kischi? Now we had a discussion about hoilich. If you say here, hoilich, transport this to that person, do you mean literally transport it, but it doesn't become that other person till he gets it? Hoilich lav kischi, or do we say hoilich kischi? When you say transport it, you also meant that you should also acquire it on behalf of the other person. So finally, the Gemara wanted to say to machlekes Araim, we had a number of opinions here, and just quickly remind you how they wanted to learn it, and that is as follows. So we have three concepts that we're going to tackle here. One is hoilich kischi. One is if we say mitzvah lekayim divrei emes, the sender dies suddenly. So now we say that you have to perhaps abide by what is asked in his instructions because mitzvah lekayim divrei emes. Yes or no? We have a machlekes tanaim on that. And then we have a thing that even if the person didn't die, but was in the throes of a death, he's a shchimera. Whatever he says, you have to carry out until he changes his mind. If he doesn't change his mind, you have to carry it out, even if he didn't die. And there we have a machlekes again. So we had a number of Tanaim, and I'll quickly go through it. The Tanakh came along and said that Reuven sent a shliach, to go to Shimon. It turned out to be that Shimon wasn't there. He passed away. It said the Tanakh says you bring it back to Reuven. So it's clear that hoilich is not kischi. Because if hoilich was kischi, then it should remain with Shimon's family. Okay. And then came along Rab Nosson and Rab Yaakov and added, what happens if Reuven, the sender, he himself died? So they say, well, hoilich is not kischi. We don't believe that they carry out the instructions of a dead person, so therefore you bring it back. No, but they don't believe in mitzvah kind of event. So you bring it back to the mishalech, and or to his children. Obviously, the mishalech died, his children. Then we had a yesh aimim. They said, no, you leave it with Shimon, and if Shimon died, leave it to Shimon's children. In other words, they hold and hoilich kischi. That's what they were initially for. What other possible explanation is there? They hold hoilich kischi. Then came along Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and he said in the name of Rabbi Yaakov, who said in the name of Rabbi Meir, that they say no, maybe hoilich is not kischi, but we have a concept called mitzvah kain divrei emes. And if Reuven died, the reason why you're going to give it to Shimon is not because hoilich is kischi, but because these are the last instructions of this person before he died. And the Chachamim say, we don't know whether hoilich is kischi or not. We don't know mitzvah kain divrei emes. You know what? Divided, half to the children of Reuven, half to the children of Shimon. And the other opinion says the Kan Omer means here in Bavel. They said that we don't know. Since we don't know, we agree with them. We don't know what the halach is, but a better outcome would be Shuddha D'Daina. Instead of half and half, then definitely you lost out. Definitely somebody's losing half, whichever one was entitled to it. So better than Shuddha D'Daina. Let the shliach work out what he thinks. If he can enter in the mind with Ashevin, not really have a Tamla. Shuddha D'Daina generally means you just to pick a guess and that's it. Rashi lets you make an assessment. If you go into the mind of the sender, is he so generous that he really wanted Shimon have and Shimon's family to have? It's up to the shliach to make that decision. Not the Dayanim, the shliach is the one who makes the decision. It's up to the shliach because he knows the sender, so therefore he knows what better than anybody else. And then we had Shimon Hanasi who told us a story that it went back to the Yoshim Shalech like Rab Nosson and Rab Yaakov said. So the Gemara wanted to say clearly, Yesh Aimim and the Tanakh and the first opinion whole are arguing about hoilich kischi. So now the Gemara comes along and says nothing to do with hoilich kischi. They're arguing about the very inyan of shchiv mirah. But a mitzvah kind of mess is only if the guy died. If the guy remained alive, there's no mitzvah kind of mess. Shchivera, even if the guy is hanging on and he's still alive, as long as he didn't change his mind, you have to carry out his instructions. Another than shchivera is only the guy was dying already at the time when he spoke to you. A mitzvah kind of mess is even the guy is totally healthy and suddenly there was a major car accident and he died. You have to carry out his last instructions if he never changed his mind. So now the Gemara explain each opinion. We're up to 3 lines at the top of the page. So if we're not arguing about hoilich kischi, you have to say, if we're not arguing hoilich kischi, that everyone holds hoilich not kischi, because the very first opinion Tanakh said, if it turned out to be that Shimon, the beneficiary, is dead, you bring it back to Reuven. So clearly hoilich is not kischi. Otherwise, you leave it there. So we're going to learn everyone holds hoilich is not kischi. Okay, how are we going to explain everything? So Tanakh 3 lines at the top, Daf Tezvav Amud Aleph says, Tanakh says that I hold like Rabbi Lezer that the hoilich is not kischi. There's no such thing as divrei shchiv mirah, and therefore what do? You take it back. to Reuben's family, to the sender. Rab Nosson, Rabbi Yaakov, Nami, Rabbi Lezer, Rab Nosson said we agree. No Heilig Chaschid, there's no Shchiv, but there's another issue here. Avagav the Mies, even though Reuben died, and they say Mitzvah kind of mess. They go a step further. They say even if Reuben died, sorry, the Tanakhama doesn't talk about Mitzvah kind of mess. The guy is a Shchivara, he's died, but he didn't die yet. So he said you bring it back to Reuben. Comes along and Rabbi Yaakov say, look, we hold like Rabbi Lezer, we don't believe in Divrei Shchivara, like the Tanakhama. So if the guy is still alive, you bring it back. However, what happens if Reuben himself died? So if apart from Shchivara, there's also the idea, the last instruction you have to carry out. But we don't believe in that. So if you bring it back to Reuben. The Yesha, they say that if it turns out to be that the beneficiary died, you leave it with his family. Not because they hold Helikus me. They hold but even though the guy is still alive, you have to carry out his instructions because if it's recorded and inscribed. The Divish Chivana, Kipsum. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Mishum Rabbi Meir Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says, name of Rabbi Meir. They say, look, we don't believe in Heilig and we don't believe in Divish Chivana. And so the guy would have remained alive, Reuben would have remained alive, but not leave Shimon. But because Reuben died, another issue comes into place. Mitzvah Kanya Mes. We don't know if Divrei Shchivra Kitsumas or not. We don't know if it kept the Kai Mitzvah Kanya Mes. We definitely agree that Heilig Lav Cheschi, but we don't know about the two other ones. Is Mesapkalu is a suffix, and therefore Yachleiku divided. The Kan number here, but they say, you know what? Since we don't know, should the Odif should is much better. At least there's a chance you get it 100% right. And Abshimon Nasi Ma'aseh Shmei. Abshimon Nasi came along, just told the story. He went back to the Mishalech. Says the Gemara. Okay, so therefore the Gemara concludes that maybe that Heilich is not Keschi. Says the Gemara, the Heilich is not Keschi. Says the Gemara, who's this Abshimon Nasi? Nasi you Meshmei the Nasi Kama. Rab Shimon Han Nasi, was he himself a Nasi, or was he saying the name of the Nasi? Now in that Yisrael, who is Rab Shimon? All the Rab Shimon is Rab Shimon and Gamliel, and we always call them, we never call them Stam Rab Shimon. Stam Rab Shimon is Shimon Yechoy. We never call them Rab Shimon Stam. Rab Shimon, Rebbe's father Rashbag, Rebbe's father Zaydib was Rashbag, Rab Shimon Gamliel. So who is Rab Shimon? So they want to say, this is interesting, they want to say, because it says in the Braisa, V'kan Omru, here. And Rashi says, where's here? You would have thought in that Yisrael. Rashi is Bavel. So this Braisa was written in Bavel, even though it's recording of Yehuda Rameir, all these Tanaim living at Yisrael, it was written in Bavel. V'kan Omru, right? It's written in Bavel. And it says over here, Rab Shimon, Hanossi, in Bavel, there must have been Nasim. But we don't really know who the status, were they really like a Nasi, not like a Nasi? So we're asking, this Rab Shimon Hanossi in Bavel, was he himself the Nasi? Or was he saying the name of a Nasi in Yisrael? Toshma, but I want to go back to Mishalech. Nasi, who are the Kamashme Nasi? Doesn't help us take who. Good for Rabbi Nasi, who said, well, it goes back to Mishalech. No, he doesn't believe in Mitzvah Mes. He doesn't believe in Divrei Shchivra. But that's not right, because halacha in both of these things are, we do carry out Divrei Mes, like Rabbi Meir says, and like the Chachamim, that Shchivra is Yechik Suvin. So what do you mean Rabbi Yosef said, Rabbi Shimon? Rabbi Yosef said, we're not talking about Divrei Shchivra. He learned the whole Braisa talking about whether we argue about Mitzvah L'Kayin Divrei Hames, and nothing to do with Divrei Shchivra. It says it says over here you bring it back to the Yoshim Shaleach, but that means he died. But if he died, but don't we have a rule mitzvah kind divrei mes, but kaim mitzvah kind divrei mes? Now the Gemara could have answered that the guy that the Reuben died before the beneficiary died, and then there's no longer mitzvah kind divrei mes because when he died, sorry, the other way around. But the beneficiary died before Reuben died, even 5 minutes before he died. So then the instructions disappear because there's no shimon to give it to. And they could have answered that. But instead, the one answers, Tani yachzru l'mishalech. We're not talking, nobody died here. Don't say give it back to the true mishalech, give it back to the mishalech. Okay, maybe Allah had no Allah maybe come. We're continuing now about this before and after. We had Machlek Rabba said that we need Saikim of the Shtar, we need to establish the veracity of the agent, but plus we need to know about the Shema, and that's why you do before and after because we hold you need both of them. The Shema, even Rabbi Lezer, Mizui B'Toich, we'll make sure they do it correctly. And according to Rav, it's only about the Kiyum Chasimov. So why do you even talk about before and after? So you should distinguish get from all other contracts. All other contracts, you need two agents to verify the signatures. Here, one aid is enough to verify the signature, but we give this aid the credibility of two. This will prevent the balabas, the husband, from coming over and causing trouble. So now the Mishnah will tell you a number of cases where you didn't carry out these instructions 100%. I mean, everybody get them overseas. He said before nechtav, you didn't see the signatures. Obviously, it's no good according to everybody. Before nechtam, before nechtav. He didn't say it. He didn't say it because we would have asked him then. Because remember, he doesn't say all he says. But yeah, we would have asked him. He did not say before nechtav. No, he didn't see them being written. Again, according to the Rabba, it's missing the shema. According to the Rava, you no longer have that the distinction between this get and all other. No good. What about before nechtav? I saw the entire get being written. Or before nechtav chetzi, the two witnesses. I saw one of the witnesses signing. Again, no good, because obviously he didn't see the full key. But what about this case? He saw the full thing of witnesses, but only saw half written. But because he didn't do it according to the Kanzah Chamim, which is to say, I saw the entire get being written, is possible. It is possible. What about Echad? The Echad, two people come across. One guy said, I saw being written, and another person said, I saw being signed. So on the one hand, it's all covered. But on the other hand, the takana was that this one shliach should see the entire get from beginning to the end, and here you didn't carry it out.
But why is the Mishnah going through all of these cases and showing that they're possible? It would be a lot easier just to say that any deviation from the formula of
associated with a machlekes is certain deviations. Associated with certain deviations might be as a machlekes. Now, the Gemara will say later, some of these things are so obvious why you mentioned it. So we have a thing called, we'll see later, Zuv Ein Tzarech Leimer Zuv. This is obvious, but I'm building up. Now, the way we're alluding here, they both were not appointed to be shluchim. One of them was a shliach, and one of them was stam and eid echad. One of them was a shliach appointed by the husband, and he said one or the other. Either I saw written or so, and he gets freely of two. But the other one is a single aid, and therefore it's possible. Why? Because a shliach should really be saying both the fon and nechtav. He didn't carry out his shliach properly. But according to another piece of the Gemara, we'll see, not today, but tomorrow, that even if they were both appointed shluchim, because each one didn't do it properly, because each one should have seen, at least one of them should have seen the entire thing, that's why it's not possible. And the problem is, let's say one guy says before nechtam, even though there's another guy before nechtam, this one guy who says before nechtam is no different than any other shtar, and we might be misled thinking that a single person verifying signatures is good enough. Okay. What about Shnai Maimin before nechtam? Two people said we saw being written the Echad Aim before nechtam. Two people saw it about written, and one person said, I saw it signed. Possible, it is possible. It is possible. What happened was the person who said I saw it signed was a third party. It was not these two people, a third person. It's possible. Why? But again, because since there's only one person in the chesima, and let's say he's a shliach, we're going to make a mistake and think that all Gittin, all stars, you can do the same thing. And Rabbi Yehuda, however, is machshir. The fact that you have two eidim on the ksibah, he calls kosher. And the fact, you're going to mistake with other ones, the fact that we require some kind of testimony regarding the before and nechtav, they said it's enough to distinguish that from all other studies. Nobody's going to make that mistake. And based on that logic, he'll also argue on the preceding case. If one person said b'fanei nechtav and another person b'fanei nechtav, you'll argue the fact that we required a b'fanei nechtav is sufficient to make it different than all other studies. And I'm not worried. Not like the Tanakh. So you have two machlekes there. But you have two people coming verifying the shtar, and even though you have one person nechtav, doesn't make it worse. The fact is you have two eidim, and that's normal in the shtar. Any shtar, two eidim come in and say we recognize the signatures. Good enough. Especially they say b'fanei nechtav before being written. Studying about Hasul. First of what he needed for the first Mishnah, maybe get the exam. So like you said, you may have a minute. Sorry, we lie on a kasha. We thought the evidence all right. Let know you the evidence. We were thought it's only that comes a chami. Try and help the woman out. But if you don't do it right, what are you going to make? Are you going to harm her? Are you going to make? Or say yes. If we want this institution to work, we have to come down like a ton of bricks and say do it this way. Otherwise, it's not going to work. The Hi Chetzi, when he said he saw half written, which half are we talking about? Because you only saw half. If we're talking about the very first half, then if he said, I saw the first half, which is there's in every get you have a toifus and a toifus. Toifus is the standard lashon you write in all Gittin, and toifus is the name of the man, the name of the husband, and the wife, the place, the date, the most important parts. So if he said, I did see the first part being written, then what's the problem? I didn't see all of it, but let's say you only heard. And we had before Shama, you heard the quill moving and being etched in there, or you just saw the first line. That's good enough. So why you saying it's not good enough? Chetz is not good enough. I just saw the second. I saw the standard text of the get being written, but I didn't see the title of the first part of the get. Therefore, it's useless. The following apostle comes along and says, "Isn't that obvious? If you only saw one aid, then of course it's possible. Must be the some chiddush. So we're going to have three opinions as to what chiddush the Mishnah is trying to tell us. No, but you're telling me that I saw only one aid, I saw half. I did not see the other aid. It is possible. Of course it's possible. You didn't see both aidim, and so therefore you're no longer a shliach. You're not following that takana. We don't talk about it. So therefore we must say there's some kind of a chiddush here. That chiddush will come out with the greatest chiddush, another psul, and the Rav and Avashi will come out with lesser chiddush. And they're quite a few generations apart, but this is interesting how the Gemara constantly have conversation that spans, 100 years, 150 years. Omar Rav Chizda said, he's saying, I'm going to make a chiddush. The Mishnah, the chiddush is not stam. He's not really explaining the Mishnah, but he's saying the Mishnah is trying to tell you a chiddush. Not stam. I say, the shliach says, I recognize one of the eidim. Obviously, it's possible. The chiddush is because he says he recognized one of the eidim, and the other one he doesn't. So we get outside help for the other one. We get two eidim to come in and to confirm the other one. It's still possible. Why would that be possible? I have two eidim in the signature. You have the shliach recognizes. Why is it possible? So you want a possible. My time, because I cool became a get a cool. You introduce the thing. You can't hedge your bets. We made a special account that a single shliach has a credibility of two. So the only time that happens is if you follow our prescription, that you had to see both signatures. You saw only one signature, so we want to create that concept that you're a shliach for one signature, so you like two, and then we have mamish to another one. So that's mamish regular kiyum. You can't have half kiyum and half takana. Or all or nothing, as we'll see in the Gemara other examples later. Master says, Rabbi, I don't understand. This particular case, I don't understand. Mi ika midi. The ilu amachad kosh. The way Rashi, but Rashi holds that if one of the eidim, instead of saying before nine nechtam, all he says is yodaiti. If he says, even though the Gemara said before yodanu, Rashi means yodanu means generally people of the world, not like occasionally yodanu means you have to have two eidim. But if you have this one aid who brought it, the shliach says, I know these two signatures, will be good enough. So you have really two people there, and that's possible. No, if he would have said the funny nechtam, and I know about the other one, it's kosher. You say it's possible. So Rabbi says, let's lessen the chiddush a little bit. That one of them I'm a shliach, the other one I'm still involved, but I'm not as a shliach. I'm there as an aid. I say he and the other ones say I know that signature. So what? If he would have said I know that signature myself, it would have been good. But because he brings along another aid, so now we turned it into a din like of aidus. Aidus on one hand, the chiddush is even though he's still involved, but because you also pulled in another aid, it's no good. My time, why? Because Asi Lachlufi became stars the Alma. This is the problem. Total different problem. We had in Mark Sub as follows: that if one aide says, I reckon, if one aide says, I recognize his signature, it's my signature, whatever it is, and I reckon, let's say this is my signature, and I recognize the signature of my friend, and another aide comes in to recognize the signature of friends, comes out that 75% of the star is based on my testimony, because 50% is me, and I say this is my signature, which I'm believed to, and I'm saying half of the other signature. I'm saying half of the other eight signatures, so that's 75%. And then verse 25, you can't have one person should be 75% of the star, another one 25. But if we're going to allow it here by get, we might make a mistake and allow it also another.
So even though you've actually brought a second,
and
said you know this signature.
Exactly.
I made it worse.
Exactly. Because of the color.
I made it worse.
Exactly. My time, because you don't have the other eight on the first signature. So on the first signature, you're acting as a shliach. On the first thing, you're acting as a shliach, you want to be considered like two aided, right? So you want to have that kind of, especially the kind of by get. And then when the other one comes in, you're acting as if you are a normal star. You bring another aid into you and the other aid. It makes a problem, causes a problem that people are going to start drawing similarities and comparisons and make a problem. Also, the chlufe became started the alma. The konafik nechi diva. The memoina pum the chatzadi. You're going to take 75% based on one aid. Master of Ashi along the lines you're saying. It doesn't smell good. If he would have just said, "Look, I know the other things as well," kosher. Even just said, "I know the other things." Now that he sort of augmented his position, yeah, possible. It's difficult to swallow. Hello, Ravashi. These are the cases. He says, I am the second. I am the aid. He made the aid a shliach. Aid nas a shliach. He made the aid a shliach. Shliach nas aid. He made the aid a shliach. So he says here, but saying that this is my signature is really, that's how you ascertain any aidus in any shtar. If each aid comes along and says, this is my signature, and the other one says, this is my signature, that's it. You don't need two aidim for each signature, because it's my signature, I'm telling you. So he's saying that I am the aid, he's behaving like a normal shtar. And then he's saying regarding the other witness, I'm the shliach, and I'm telling you that this is, I saw it written lishma. So I feel away, man, you he apostle, why? Because my time, you gotta do it one way or another. You can't behave half like a normal style and half like a get. What's the question now? We look in the Mishnah. The fun and nechtem kula says in our Mishnah here. I saw all written the fun and chetzi apostle. Either chetzi. When our Mishnah said the other half is apostle, let's understand our Mishnah. With this discussion of Chizda, Rav, and Rabashi, there was time talking. Now we're going back to the Mishnah and seeing how it fits in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that if you saw only one signature, right, it's possible. What are we talking about? Nobody's testifying about a second signature. In the case before the Mishnah, where one guy said, I saw the whole thing written, another guy said, I saw the whole thing being signed, and yet he said it's possible because he didn't see all of it. And it's possible because he didn't do it correctly, which is one shliach saying the whole thing as a shliach. If all you're saying is, I saw one signature and nobody saw, what's the chiddush in the Mishnah? Obviously, the Mishnah is telling you chetz possible. There's more to it. What's the other half? Must be. We always, whenever there's a chiddush, the Mishnah, we always try to learn out reduce the chiddush. But if the Mishnah wants to say a much bigger chiddush, the Mishnah would have said so clearly. If it have chiddush, which you have two eidim, and yet to tell me it's possible, the Mishnah should have said something. So obviously, it's not talking about two eidim. Either it's only one other aid you pulled with you for the second half, I and the other aid, and probably 75% versus 25, or like Ravashi, that I am the other aid. And the Mishnah is telling you that it's possible. How do I know the Mishnah trying to tell you that? Otherwise, what's the point of the Mishnah telling you? So this whole thing is redundant. But definitely not like Rav Chizda, because his chiddush, such a chiddush, two eidim made as possible. The Mishnah should have said something. Rav Chizda says, let me ask you a question. According to you, you're telling me everything in the Mishnah is not it must be a chiddush. So tell me, how do you understand here? Right in the beginning, the Mishnah says, I did not see him being signed. Tell me the chiddush in that one. Ella must be loizu avzuktani. Our Mishnah is working its way up. Some parts are chiddush, some parts are not a chiddush. No hakanami. Loizu avzuktani. I can tell you, the Mishnah said over here that I saw half being written, half is not really chiddush. It's just working its way up. Okay, now that you tell me all or nothing, the Gemara is going to bring some other laws totally extraneous to this Gemara, but idea. Said, Gidud Chamisha Mechitza Chamisha. That Rashi learns talking about there's a hole in the ground. In order to be Rosh Hashanah, it has to be 10 tefachim high. If you have a wall 10 tefachim high in the middle of the street, that becomes Rosh Hashanah if it's 4 tefachim wide. What happens? You have a pit that's 5 tefachim deep, and then you have a wall surrounding it that's 5 tefachim high. So if you're standing inside the pit, it's 10 tefachim. Yeah, but standing outside, you have 5 tefachim of wall and 5 tefachim of hole. So Chizah says, Gidud Chamisha, Mechitza Chamisha, if you have a wall of 5 and a hole of 5, ain't. No, Shusha Yachid. Is it called a Shusha Yachid? On Shabbos, if I put something, let's say on top. No. It still fell into a 10 tvachim. Still fell from the top to the bottom 10 tvachim. Aim and Starfi, they don't combine. Actually, a kula mechitza, a kula begin. Same principle. Either 10 tvachim of mechitza or 10 tvachim of a hole. Dorish, argues. He says, Gidud Chamisha Mechitza. Hey, this is the they do combine. Teja has a big problem with Rashi. He brings from all these gemaras. We definitely combine a Mechitza and a Gid. I'm talking about. So he wants to learn here. We're talking about over here the following case. There's 2 courtyards. One courtyard is raised above the other one, and there's 5 tefachim above the other one. So, and then you have a wall of 5 tefachim. So the guy on the bottom has a wall of 10 tefachim, 5 tefachim of cliff, let's say, of sand, and 5 tefachim of wall. But the guy on top only has 5 tefachim. And the question is, the guy on top, if he puts, the top of the wall, is that considered just a yochid, or or not? The guy down there is definitely 10 tefachim wall. He has 10 tefachim wall. Don't talk about it. So it's a separate rishus and all that. You have to have an native. But the guy on the bottom, he only has a 5 tefachim wall separating him and the next guy. Does he need a native between the two because there's no wall there or not? So we say that the bottom 5 with the top 5 mitzvah from the guy sitting on top. That's how Taisa wants to. Anyway, it's getting Gemara. Says Gemara further. Another case of all nothing. Bali Ilfa. Remember, Ilfa was Rabbi Yechon. We had more time. He's Rabbi Yechon's friend, and he was a big Talmud Chacham, and we have him a number of times in Kachim, and he's the one who said, "Ask me any din, and I'll show you where you get the source for the Braisa." And he always liked Taurus. He's mainly in Kachim. He always liked it. So, boy, if he has a question, you're dying to if your hands are Torah, you still have to wash your hands when it comes to Truma, and that's why we wash our hands for bread. Tzrach Truma. You're dying to you have clean hands. Let's say if you want to cleanse them, you did only halfway. Is it clean or not? I'm going to try to analyze. What do you mean halfway? Hey, what are you talking about? You took both hands, you washed together from one cup that has a revius. What's the problem? In other words, each hand only received half a revius, and we know the dinner has to come from revius. But now revius, that one person can put both hands together. If it comes from a cup of revius, good. But even 2 people, you can. Well, the kamashi chada yadi. It's talking about first you wash one hand, and then you didn't wash them together, and then another hand. That's the problem. Therefore, that's the question if it's good. But now we learned if you washed one hand, properly from a cup, and the other hand you dunked in the water, it's good enough. No, they don't have to be done simultaneously. They don't have to be done the same way. Well, the kamasha. Pauga, the other. What happened was first you washed half of the hand and then you washed the other half. Interesting, Rashi holds that according to halacha, you only have to wash your hands till your joints, and you wash them only to your knuckle, and then you wash the other hand. We wash until the wrist, but Rashi here says till your knuckle, and you wash first one half and the other half. And the shaila is that good enough or not? Says the Gemara. You can't do it half and half. Has to wash the entire hand. You have 2 kinds of tefech. There's tefech and tefech amanas lahatfech. Tefech means that it's damp. It's very damp. Tefech lahatfech means it is so damp that you can make other things wet as well. So the Gemara is saying here, it's talking about that you didn't completely, you washed half what you're meant to wash, but you didn't completely wipe it down, so it's still damp. And then you wash the other hand. Do we consider as if you washed the entire hand or not? So what if it's damp? Damp doesn't help us, but none. We learned if you have one keli on top and one on the bottom one, let's say, is coming, you're pouring from the top one there, it doesn't pass the tumah. We don't say that this nitzig, the flowing, connects the 2 pots together. We don't say nitzig is kimechuber. And a katafris, let's say if you have water going down a slope and you have a board, let's say the top is Torah, the bottom is tamei. We don't say the water connects the top and the bottom. And then you have mashke, and then you have you have 2 boiris, each one is 20 saw. In order for a mikveh to be kosher, you need a minimum of 40 saw. You have 2 boiris, 20 saw, and what's connecting the 2 is water on the ground that is damp. Dampness is not enough to say that's connecting. Not to pass tumah, like I just gave you examples of board, and you have one side coming to it, nor to create a mikveh. But if it's if it's very damp, then it works. If it's mamish, a little bit of trickle of water there, or it's very, very damp, but you put something else that also get wet, then it connects the 2 mikvahs together. And Teish has a whole question that when do we say you need sheferes hanoid, a hole between 2 mikvahs that you can put your finger in, and when do we say that just dampness enough is good enough? And Teish. Sorry? Yeah, exactly. But there you need that 2 fingers can go in, circle around. And here it seems just dampness. So he makes a difference whether it's horizontal or whether it's on a slope or vertical. And also, Pesach wants to say maybe that there's a difference. If there's talking about there's a kosher mikveh in between, and then there's 2 ancillary mikvahs on the side that didn't have enough. Once you have a kosher mikveh, it's much easier to make the ancillary mikvahs kosher as well, rather than trying to create a kosher mikveh between 2 mikvahs. So more mach. Anyway, continue the Gemara. How do we know that? First of all, what's the Ilfus question? We learned that. It does work. Says the Gemara, maybe it only works regarding mikvais, but not regarding washing your hands. That's the question. What's the story? And it follows Rabbi Yehuda. We have a machlekes. Now we learn. You have a mikvah that's 40 saw. The chuvan is exactly 40 saw. The yodush na'im v'tavlu. Two people went into the mikvah. Now the problem is, if Reuben goes to the mikvah first and then walks out, he took some water with him. So when Shimon entered the mikvah, there's no longer 40 saw. However, the second guy is tummy. However, Rabbi Yehuda says, if Reuben is still standing on the top step, so he's still touching the water, then we could connect af hasheni tar. The second one is also tar. So we know where. So maybe according to Rabbi Yehuda, he says that the ferch naslat ferch works. Af hasheni tar. So that's the question. Whether over here also we say that only works by mikvah. Would it work also by washing your hands or not? That's Ulfa's question. That Rabbi Yehuda who said that mikvah works, is it only because it's good achis? We have a concept of good achis, we imagine, since it's very good flowing downwards, it connects, or because it's still very moist and it's connecting, and the same thing about washing your hands. Okay, so Gemara further says, so it's not a question here of chibur, we're trying to connect. I just want to know if dampness is considered still wet, and it's like one go. Gemara further, still, I say my idea. How do you we had Gemara Shabbos that if you go to the mikveh and you then one of the 18 things that Shammai decided that the law has to be like him, it's called Yud Ches Davar. If somebody goes to the mikveh and then after they go take a shower, they become tummy again because people started believing. Yeah, people started believing that it was the shower that made them turn, not the mikveh. Because in those days the mikvehs were smelly and it was a terrible stench. That's right, and the water was foul, putrid. So they would then go take a shower. So they made the kana. You can't do that. So now this is a famous Rabbi Yirmiyah, and you'll see why the Amoraim got annoyed. But this time they didn't throw him out yet. Not yet. First Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Hari Amru. The rule is if let's say you went in, you were tired and you went into a bath of Mayim Shuvin, or a tahir, a person who is tired should not throw out looking. You took a shower, 30 lugin of Mayim Shuvin, drawn water, tameh, you become tameh. As far as Truma is concerned, you are tameh until you go to the mikveh. This is part of Yud Ches Davar. But people believe in that this kind of cleanliness, hygiene, that's what it's all about. That's nothing spiritual, it's something hygienic. And okay. So they made two gzeiros. At first they said a shower doesn't make you clean, and then the second thing is that even if you're tired, you just walk into a bath, you already become tummy as far as Truma is concerned. So now comes this question. Now listen to Rabbi Yirmiyah, you'll see it's exactly his style. What Rabbi Yirmiyah? What happened? Half your body went into a bath, and the other half of the body you took a shower. What happens then? There's a fall on the gzeira or not? Might take them. So just leave it there, Leo. We can't take this. And we'll just finish it. Papa said, Hari Amru. This is so again, this is all or nothings. Rabbi Yirmiyah, but his question, all or nothing, they didn't have an answer for. Neither did we answer Ilfa's question, but all of
Or is the
good question. Good question.
Difficult.
Papa, but this is the same style, half in 50 hours, half hour, 50 hours. Papa said, Hari Amru, they said, Balkedi, Ezra made a kana that somebody's Balkedi, he shouldn't sit and learn daven until he goes to the mikveh. And later on, they abolish it. You don't say they abolish it because, but so that people shouldn't be the wives like chickens, like roosters, hens. And Balkedi chayla. What about this Balkedi? He has to go to mikveh, but he's sick. He can't go to mikveh. This is what happened during COVID, that they were saying you take a shower in the Tisha Kabin, and that was the mikveh if you couldn't go to mikveh. Papa learned from Yirmiyah. Let's say half of it went to the mikveh, and half of it, he did we made a special takana that nine shuvin works. Whatever he did, half proper mikveh and half shuvin. This is similar to what we had before. Before we said that one shliach is like two, but then we put 2 8 in there. And Bechina said, "Oy kuli this." Teku. Remain with a question.